My name is Daniel Hart. I'm 45, and somewhere along the way my life turned into a place I no longer recognize. It's strange how quiet collapse feels: no explosions, no screaming, no dramatic moments of clarity, just the slow erosion of small certainties, the invisible peeling of trust. You don't see the cracks when they first appear. You only see what they've done when something finally breaks. For years I thought my biggest problem was the pressure at work: deadlines, negotiations, the constant corporate suffocation that comes with being a senior analyst at a firm obsessed with numbers, but indifferent to the people who produce them. I didn't realize until recently that the real danger wasn't outside my apartment walls. It lived much closer, under my roof, in my bed, in the subtle changes in a woman's voice when she's lying to you and she thinks you haven't noticed. Her name is Olivia. 12 years of marriage, 10 of which I believed were solid enough to withstand anything. But this last year, something shifted. I used to think she was just tired. Her job at the law firm was demanding, her hours unpredictable. But the tiredness turned into distance. Distance into silence. Silence into something colder, sharper, dangerous to touch. That invisible edge of a secret she refused to name. At first, I tried to ignore it. Everyone tells themselves comforting lies in the beginning. She's stressed, it's a phase, we'll fix it. But denial is a fragile thing. All it takes is one small moment to shatter it. For me, it happened on a Friday evening, the kind that smelled of rain and burnt city air. I came home earlier than usual on an unexpected cancellation of a client meeting. I didn't text Olivia, thinking it might be nice to surprise her. Maybe we'd talk, maybe we'd have dinner, maybe the distance would shrink, even just a little. But when I opened the door, the apartment felt wrong, too quiet, too still, the kind of silence that makes your instincts wake up in a cold sweat. I heard her voice in the bedroom, low, tense, not at all like the way she spoke when she thought she was alone. No, he suspects something. I can feel it. A pause. No, I haven't told him anything. Not yet. My stomach twisted, but I stayed frozen near the doorway, listening, breathing shallowly, as if I could disappear into the floor. No, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't meet you tonight. Not with him home. I'll message you later. I don't remember the next few seconds. I think I just stood there with my pulse hammering against my ribs while the pieces rearranged themselves in my mind. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just emotional betrayal. There was something underneath, something calculating. I stepped back softly and pretended I had just arrived, closing the door loudly enough for her to hear. She emerged from the hallway, doing that thing she always does, smiling too quickly, too artificially, as if plastering emotion over the truth could hide it. You're home early, she said, tucking her phone into her pocket. Her hand shook just slightly. Meeting ended ahead of schedule, I replied. I watched her eyes. People can lie with their words, with their hands, even with their posture, but their eyes always tell the story. Hers were restless, flickering, searching for something she'd misplaced. We ate dinner together, but it tasted like nothing. Every sound, her fork on the plate, her breathing, the muted vibration of her phone she'd pretended not to hear, cut deeper into the slow unraveling of my reality. I didn't ask questions. Not yet. The smartest thing you can do when someone is lying to you is to let them keep doing it. The truth reveals itself faster when the liar believes they still have control. That night, she fell asleep quickly, too quickly. People who carry guilt tend to crash hard once the tension becomes unbearable. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of her breathing. My mind replayed her words, each repetition sharpening the meaning. He suspects something. Not yet. I'll message you later. These weren't the words of a woman cheating with guilt or confusion. These were the words of someone involved in something with consequences. Something deliberate. Round 2:30 a.m., after hours of staring at nothing, I finally got up. I needed air. I needed distance. The apartment felt claustrophobic. The walls too close, the darkness too thick. I tugged on a jacket and walked out into the hallway, letting the cold fluorescent lights strip away some of the suffocation. I didn't expect to hear the elevator door open behind me, and I certainly didn't expect the man who stepped out. Tall, black coat, clean-shaven, corporate haircut, the kind of face that blends into a crowd too easily forgettable by design. He froze when he saw me, as if I wasn't supposed to be there. We stared at each other in that too bright hallway, and I swore I saw recognition in his eyes. Not surprise recognition. The kind that says, "You weren't part of the plan." "Evening," he murmured, giving a nod that felt too forced. "Do I know you?" I asked. He smiled. A polite, meaningless smile. No, I must have the wrong floor. But he didn't look confused. He didn't glance at the door numbers. He didn't pull out his phone to check. He just shifted slightly, as if adjusting something beneath his coat. A weapon, a hidden object, a phone. I stepped closer. "You sure?" His smile disappeared. "Yeah? Have a good night." He moved past me too quickly to deliberately, heading down the stairs instead of waiting for the elevator. I watched the stairwell door swing shut behind him. My heart pounded, not from fear but from clarity. Whoever he was, he didn't belong here, and he certainly didn't expect to see me awake and walking the hallway. I stood there for a long time, staring at the stairwell door, listening to silence filling the space again. My mind was no longer fogged by confusion. Something was happening. Something larger than infidelity. Something coordinated. And Olivia was involved. When I walked back into the apartment, she was still asleep, peaceful, unaware, curled under the blanket like a woman who didn't have shadows following her. But I wasn't the same man who had left minutes before. I knew something was coming, and it had already reached my doorstep. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside Olivia, watching the faint glow of city lights crawl across the ceiling like silent warnings. Every sound from the street made my nerves twitch. A car door slamming, distant sirens, the metallic groan of the building settling. All of it fed a growing truth inside me. The man in the hallway wasn't a coincidence. I replayed his face in my mind, that bland corporate neutrality, the stiffness in his shoulders, the way his hand had hovered near his coat as if ready to reach for something hidden. And the most important detail, he didn't look lost. He wasn't searching for an apartment number. He wasn't confused. He was checking something. Or someone. At 6:12 a.m., Olivia's alarm jolted the room. She stirred, stretched, and blinked herself awake. Her eyes landed on me. "You're up early," she said. "I couldn't sleep," I replied. "Too much on my mind." She studied my face for a second too long, trying to gauge what I knew. Her instinctive micro-expressions, those tiny betrayals the body performs before the brain catches up, told me plenty. A flicker of worry, a tiny inhale, the slightest tension along the jaw. She was bracing, preparing. "Want coffee?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Sure." She slipped out of bed and into her robe. As she walked to the kitchen, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She glanced at it, hesitated, then turned away, pretending she didn't see it. But I did. A name I didn't recognize. Marcus' office. Her phone vibrated again as she left the bedroom. I stared at it. I shouldn't have touched it. I knew that. But trust wasn't something I owed her anymore. Not when she had taken it from me first. I picked up the phone. The screen stayed dark, fingerprint locked. I wasn't surprised. Olivia had changed her passcode 3 months ago. She'd claimed it was a work security update. At the time, I believed her. Now I wasn't so generous. In the kitchen, the sound of the kettle heating filled the apartment. I could smell the faint bitterness of coffee grounds. Olivia hummed, a habit she had when she was nervous, thinking, or trying to convince herself everything was normal. I set the phone down as she returned. "You look pale," she said. "Didn't sleep?" I repeated. "Like I said." She nodded slowly, handed me a mug, then sat across from me. Her hair was tied back loosely, a few strands falling across her face. She pushed them away absently, revealing eyes that were too alert for someone who supposedly just woke up. "Daniel," she said, her voice gentle, "you've been distant lately." I almost laughed. That's ironic, I replied. Her expression stiffened just slightly. Too controlled. Too careful. I mean it, she continued. You've been distracted, preoccupied. Maybe I've had reasons. A pause, silence thickened between us. What reasons? She asked, trying to keep her tone steady. I stared at her, really stared. I watched every twitch, every breath, every flicker of doubt in her eyes. But I didn't answer. Her phone buzzed again. She flinched. Work? I asked. She kept her voice flat. Probably. Marcus again. Her eyes froze. The moment stretched, broke, and she forced a small laugh. Daniel, he's just a colleague, a paralegal. We're working on a case together, and he texts you this early. She looked away. He likes getting updates before the day starts. Does he always text you when you're barely awake in bed with your husband? Her eyes snapped back wide, defensive. You're being paranoid. I leaned back. Am I? Another buzzing sound, another message. Olivia swallowed hard, then grabbed the phone as if afraid I'd reach for it first. I need to shower, she said abruptly. And she left, not scared, defensive, not remorseful, irritated. A woman juggling too many lies at once, while she showered, steam spilling under the bathroom door. I sat at the kitchen table, letting my thoughts settle into shapes. Something connected Olivia, this Marcus, and the man in the hallway. She was hiding something dangerous, something that made a stranger appear outside our apartment in the middle of the night. I picked up my phone and dialed someone I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Yeah, a tired, gravelly voice answered. It's me, I said quietly. A long beat of silence. Then, Jesus Christ, Dan, haven't heard from you since you left the firm. What's going on? I need a favor, I said. Must be serious. It is. Another beat. Tell me. Not on the phone, I said. Meet me tonight. 9 o'clock. Same place as before. A low whistle. That bad? Worse. All right, he said. I'll be there. I ended the call as water shut off in the bathroom. Minutes later, Olivia stepped out, hair damp, wrapped in a towel, looking too composed for someone I'd cornered moments earlier. She kissed my cheek. The gesture felt wrong, forced, like a performance of a marriage she'd already left. I'll be home late tonight, she said. Long day, of course, I replied. Her eyes flicked to me, searching for suspicion, for confrontation, for any hint that I knew more than I claimed, but I kept my expression calm, almost bored. Let her think she was still in control. Let her believe she still held the upper hand. She grabbed her bag and stepped out the door with a tight smile. When the door clicked shut behind her, I waited exactly 6 seconds. Then I grabbed my jacket and followed. I didn't expect her to go straight to the office. And I certainly didn't expect the car waiting for her at the corner, tinted windows, engine running. A man stepped out from the passenger side. Not Marcus. Not anyone I recognized, but someone who absolutely recognized her. He opened the door for her, scanning the street with the same alert, predator-like instinct as the man from last night. Olivia climbed inside without hesitation. The car pulled away. My chest tightened, not with heartbreak, but with understanding. Whatever she was involved in, it wasn't an affair. It was bigger, smarter, darker, and I had just stepped into the center of it. I followed the black sedan from a distance, staying 3 cars behind, careful not to get too close. The morning traffic helped. Buses, commuters, delivery trucks, all of them forming a moving shield that kept me hidden in plain sight. Olivia sat in the back, barely visible through the tinted glass, but I could see the silhouette of her head, slightly bowed, as if in deep conversation. The man who picked her up wasn't the Marcus from her phone. He looked older, heavier, more self-assured. He moved like someone accustomed to giving orders, not following them, a handler. Or worse, someone with leverage. The car turned off the main road, cutting through smaller side streets. Not toward her office downtown, the opposite direction. That was the moment my heartbeat changed rhythm, from suspicion to certainty. Olivia wasn't just hiding something, she was working with someone. I kept a steady tail, until the sedan reached a part of the city most people avoided unless they had a specific reason to be there, the industrial district near the docks. Empty warehouses, old shipping yards, forgotten factories. The kind of place where no one asked questions. The kind of place where bad things happened quietly. The sedan slowed near a rusted gate. It opened from the inside. Someone was waiting. The car drove in. I passed the entrance, pretending not to look, though I caught a glimpse of security cameras angled toward the street. Two of them, high-end, new, whatever this place was. It wasn't abandoned. I continued driving another block, turned the corner, and parked behind a row of loading docks. From there, I had a partial view of the compound through the gaps in the fence. Olivia stepped out of the car with the older man beside her. She seemed tense, shoulders tight, movements stiff. Not like a woman meeting a lover, more like someone reporting in. Two other men approached them, security, armed, not in uniforms, but their posture, the way they scanned the perimeter. The earpieces, all of it screamed private intelligence or corporate enforcement. My stomach sank. This wasn't an affair. This was a covert operation. And Olivia was in the middle of it. She followed the men into one of the warehouses. The door shut behind them. I stayed in the car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles whitened. The rational part of me whispered to leave, to wait, to gather information slowly. But another part, the one built from months of suspicion, silence, and betrayal, urged me forward. Before I could make a decision, something caught my eye. A black SUV pulled up to the gate. Seconds later, it passed through the open entrance without stopping. And inside, sitting in the back seat, was the man from last night. The same haircut, the same cold expression, the same way he scanned the area with clinical precision. Any lingering doubt evaporated. He hadn't come to our floor by accident. He was watching Olivia, or watching me. I ducked lower in the car, pulse hammering. What the hell was she involved in? After nearly an hour, the warehouse door opened. Olivia emerged first, looking drained, her eyes slightly red, as if she had been crying, or arguing, or confessing something she never wanted to say out loud. Behind her came the older man, gesturing sharply, frustration etched across his face. The two guards watched them from a distance, hands resting lightly on their holsters. Then I saw Marcus. Not the middle-aged paralegal she had described, not even close. He stepped out of the shadows inside the warehouse like he owned the place. Mid-30s, expensive suit, confident stride. His expression carried an ease that suggested he wasn't afraid of anyone, especially not of my wife. He walked toward Olivia, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. She flinched. Not from disgust, from fear. It hit me harder than any revelation so far. She wasn't cheating. She was trapped. Marcus leaned in, whispering something to her. Her face went pale. She nodded, small, hesitant, and immediately stepped away from him. He didn't like that. His jaw tightened, and he grabbed her wrist. I felt something primal ignite in my chest, anger mixed with clarity. A sharp instinct screaming that she wasn't safe with these people. Whatever she was doing, she wasn't doing it willingly. The older man stepped between them, muttering something I couldn't hear. Marcus finally released her wrist. Olivia pulled her hand back quickly, hiding it behind her coat. Moments later, they all disappeared inside another building, this one smaller, with reinforced doors and blacked-out windows. The SUV with the man from last night parked near the entrance. He stepped out and joined them inside. I needed answers, now. I scanned the area and spotted a side alley leading behind the warehouse complex. Rusted fencing, old storage containers, shadows deep enough to hide in. I left the car, keeping my head down, and made my way along the alley, sticking close to walls, avoiding cameras as much as possible. My years at the firm dealing with internal security protocols gave me an eye for surveillance patterns. I used every trick I knew. Behind one of the containers, I found something unexpected, a discarded visitor's badge on the ground, mud-smeared but readable. Sterling and Hawthorne Investments Tempoc Chessy froze. That was one of the most powerful private financial firms in the state, the kind involved in acquisitions, asset takeovers, and quiet, ruthless restructuring. A firm where people disappeared when they caused problems. I picked up the badge, brushing dirt off the name, M. Harlan Compliance Division. And beneath that, in smaller text, clearance, amber level wasn't basic access. It was mid-tier clearance, enough to know dangerous things without being able to stop them. What the hell was Olivia doing connected to Sterling and Hawthorne as I stood there? A door in the building ahead opened, and Olivia stepped outside with the older man. My heart lurched. She wasn't crying now. She wasn't afraid. She looked defeated. He spoke to her quietly. She didn't argue. She didn't resist. She just nodded with mechanical resignation. He handed her a small envelope. She glanced around, and for one split second, her gaze swept the alley. Her eyes met mine. Everything stopped. Her face went pale. Her lips parted. And I saw something in her expression I hadn't seen in months. Regret. Real regret. Not the kind that comes with lies, but the kind that comes too late to undo anything. She shook her head slightly, a tiny gesture, a warning. Go now, please. The older man turned his head, following her line of sight. I ducked behind the container just in time. Footsteps, voices. A gate buzzing open. The sedan pulled out of the compound with Olivia inside. A few seconds later, the black SUV followed. I waited until both vehicles vanished into the distance. When silence finally returned, I exhaled. Shakly. My wife was in deep. To deep. And whatever she had become involved in, whatever they were forcing her to do, it wasn't just illegal. It was dangerous. Deadly. There was no turning back now. I needed to know what was inside that envelope. I needed to know who Marcus truly was. And I needed to be ready for whatever would happen when they learned I had been here, because the man from last night had seen my floor, my hallway, and eventually he would connect the pieces. As I stepped back toward my car, my phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. 5 words, cold, precise, enough to freeze the blood in my veins. You shouldn't have followed her. My pulse stopped for a second. The air seemed to drain from the world. Someone was watching me. Someone new, and this time, they weren't hiding. The shadow outside the door didn't move. Not forward, not away. It simply stood there, the shape of a man, cut into the thin bar of light under the doorframe, watching, listening, existing like a reminder that, whatever line I had crossed, there was no way back. Olivia's breathing turned sharp and shallow. Her fingers clutched my arm, not with fear for herself, but fear for me. Don't make a sound, she whispered. But the words were too late. A soft click echoed from the hallway, the unmistakable metallic shift of a gun being unholstered. My pulse slammed into my ribs. Whoever was out there had come. Prepared. Olivia stepped away from me, wiping her face with the sleeve of her coat, trying desperately to erase the fear from it. She straightened her posture, forced her breathing to slow, and walked toward the door as if rehearsed 1,000 times. She wasn't acting like a woman terrified of being caught. She was acting like a woman who knew her place in whatever world she'd been dragged into. When she reached the door, she paused, just for a split second, and looked back at me, with eyes full of something that felt like a goodbye. Then she opened it. A tall man in a dark coat stood in the hallway, lean, expressionless. His face was the kind you forget instantly, which made him infinitely more dangerous. A man chosen for anonymity. He didn't even look at me. Olivia, he said quietly. His voice was soft, polite even, but coated in something cold and final. Marcus wants to see you. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say no, but nothing came out. She simply nodded. And then the man's eyes lifted, settling on me for the first time. You weren't supposed to get involved, he said. My stomach tightened. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did, His tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. You followed her. You went to the warehouse. You opened the envelope. He took one calm step into the doorway. You were warned. Before I could respond, Olivia stepped between us. Her arm outstretched slightly, a protective gesture I didn't expect. "Please," she whispered, "just let him go. He doesn't know anything." The man's expression didn't change. "That's the problem." He turned to her. "You have 10 minutes. Marcus is waiting." And then he walked away, leaving the door open behind him. His footsteps faded down the stairwell. I stepped toward Olivia. "What does he mean Marcus is waiting? What does he want from you?" She closed the door with trembling hands, then leaned her forehead against it as if it were the only thing holding her up. "He wants me to finish what I started," she whispered. "What did you start?" She turned to me slowly, her face pale and exhausted. "I didn't want you to know," she said. "Not like this, but I need to know." She inhaled shakily. "You remember the financial audit my department was supposed to run? The one that got shut down without explanation?" I nodded. "That wasn't an audit," she said. "It was a cover. Marcus and his people were moving money, millions, through shell companies. I found out by accident, and once I did, I couldn't unsee it." A cold heaviness settled in my chest. "You tried to expose it." She looked down. "I tried to run with it. I tried to take the evidence and disappear. But they caught me before I could get far." My heartbeat stuttered. "So they forced you to work for them?" I said. "No." She shook her head. "They forced me to stay quiet." Her voice cracked on the last word. "And now," she whispered, "they want me to clean up the mess I made." The room felt suddenly smaller, the air heavy with the truth I'd spent too long avoiding. "You should have told me." She laughed softly, a broken, tired sound. "I couldn't. If they knew you were involved, they'd." A vibration cut through the room. Her phone. On the counter, she grabbed it. A single message. "Now." Our breath hitched. "Daniel, I have to go." "No," I said. "We go to the police. They own the police. Then we leave the city. They'll find us. Then we fight." She looked at me, really looked, with eyes full of both love and sorrow. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You can't fight men like them. I tried. I lost." She stepped closer, placing her forehead against mine. "If you ever cared about me, you'll stay out of this." I grabbed her hands. "I'm not letting you go alone. You have to." Her voice broke. "You saw what they can do." I opened my mouth to argue, but then, very faintly, from outside the window, a car engine, running, waiting. Her ride. Her escort. Her warning. She pulled her hands away, grabbed her coat, and walked to the door. When she opened it, she turned back one last time. "Daniel," she said quietly, "whatever happens to me, don't try to follow." She walked out. The door closed behind her. Silence flooded the apartment. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway, feeling the weight of everything she didn't say, of everything she was too afraid to admit. Then I walked to the bedroom. To the envelope they left on my pillow. I held it up to the light. There was something stiff beneath the paper, something I hadn't noticed before. I tore open the lining, and a small black SD card fell into my palm. A hidden message, a mistake they didn't know they'd made, or a challenge. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at it. If I plugged it in, there would be no turning back. If I didn't, I'd lose her. The choice wasn't really a choice. I stood, grabbed my laptop, and slid the SD card into the port. A single folder appeared. Retainer. Inside it, 20 video files, 8 audio recordings, 3 scanned documents, 1 text file. The text file was named :final_instructions.txt. My pulse hammered. As I clicked it open, 5 words appeared on the screen. "If you're reading this, run." And beneath it, a timestamp, 9:17 p.m. The exact minute Olivia stepped through our door. My breath caught. This wasn't a warning. It was a countdown. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, heavy, certain. Then a voice. "Daniel." Opened the door. Not a shout, not a threat, just calm inevitability. the apartment filled with dread so dense it felt alive. I clicked one of the video files. The screen lit up, the dark warehouse. The same one I'd seen Olivia at. Marcus stood in the center, and beside him Olivia tied to a chair bruised terrified. And in the video, Marcus spoke directly into the camera. Bring in, the door handle turned. And for the first time, I understood. I wasn't watching their plan, I was in it. The message disappeared from my screen almost instantly, as if whoever sent it didn't want me to dwell on it too long, but I'd seen enough. You shouldn't have followed her. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even anger. It was a cold statement of fact, the kind you deliver only when you're certain of two things: you're watching someone, and you want them to know you're watching. I sat there in my car for several minutes, the phone still in my hand, my pulse pounding against my throat. The industrial yard was quiet now. The warehouse lights humming faintly, the air heavy with the smell of metal and old concrete. But something inside me had shifted, a realization, sharp as broken glass. I wasn't an observer anymore. I'd just stepped over a line I couldn't retreat from. I drove home slowly, taking unnecessary turns, checking my mirrors more times than reasonable. The sky had turned the color of steel wool, the clouds hanging low, pressing down on the horizon. By the time I reached my building, dusk had already swallowed the street. The stairwell was unnervingly silent. Each step echoed like someone walking right behind me. I didn't look back, not because I wasn't afraid, but because I knew that if I did and saw someone, I wouldn't be able to pretend anymore. When I reached the door, the key slipped twice before settling into the lock. My fingers weren't steady. My lungs weren't steady. Nothing inside me was steady. The moment the door opened, I froze. The light in the living room was on. I hadn't left it on. I stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind me without a sound. The apartment felt wrong. Not physically disturbed, but unsettled, like the air itself held someone else's breath. I walked through each room one by one. The kitchen was immaculate, the bathroom untouched, the hallway spotless, but the details betrayed everything. My notebook on the desk had been moved. The pen wasn't where I left it. My laptop, which I always shut down fully, was in sleep mode. Someone had been here, not randomly, purposefully. Whoever they were, they hadn't taken anything. They had come to look, to observe, to send a message far louder than any text. We can reach you anywhere. Then I noticed the bedroom door half open. A thin white envelope lay on my pillow. The same kind I saw handed to Olivia that morning, clean, precise, placed with intention, like a signature. I approached it slowly as if it might react to my presence. My name wasn't written on it, nothing was, but it didn't need to be. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with block-printed text. You don't understand what she's involved in. Stay away if you want her to stay safe. No threats, no commands, just a condition. They weren't warning me for my sake. They were warning me for hers. I sat on the edge of the bed, the paper shaking slightly in my hand. My thoughts were a mess of fear, confusion, and something darker, something building slowly inside me like smoke. If they could get into my home, they could get into anything: my phone, my car, my life. They had been watching me longer than I realized. And now they wanted me to know it. Olivia came home at 9:17 p.m. I heard her key turning hesitantly in the lock, the door opening just an inch before she pushed it fully. She stepped inside quietly, almost like a stranger entering a place she wasn't sure she had permission to be. When she saw me standing in the hallway, she stiffened, not out of fear, out of guilt. "You're home," she said. Her voice was light, but the tremor beneath it betrayed her. "I thought you'd be working late." She was testing things, checking whether I'd been following her, whether I knew anything. I didn't move. "You're late." Her hand tightened around the strap of her bag, a tiny involuntary reaction. "It was a difficult day," she said. "Long, stressful. A day that ends at 9. I asked. She looked down. A practiced liar would have met my eyes. Olivia didn't. Someone was here, I said quietly. Her head snapped up. Panic flashed across her face before she could hide it. What do you mean someone was in the apartment? They moved things. They left something for me. She closed her eyes slowly, exhaling like someone absorbing a blow. When she opened them again, she wasn't trying to lie anymore. Daniel, please, you need to stay out of this. Out of what? She pressed her lips together, trembling, and shook her head. I can't tell you. You need to tell me. I can't, she whispered. And then, after a moment, if I say anything. Dale, her voice cracked. She covered her mouth with her hand, as if the words themselves were dangerous. My pulse quickened. Dale, what? She didn't answer. She couldn't. And that silence told me more than any confession. Whoever those men were, whoever Marcus was, they had her trapped. But it wasn't about infidelity. It wasn't about another man. It was bigger, heavier, something with enough power to make her terrified of speaking inside her own home. I took a slow step toward her. Olivia, I saw you today. Her breath caught. At the warehouse. Her knees almost buckled. Her face went white, not with anger, not with indignation, but with something like grief. You followed me, she whispered. I had to? No, Daniel. You don't understand. She reached for me, then pulled her hand back, as if she wasn't allowed to touch me anymore. You shouldn't have gone there. I saw the men. I saw Marcus. I lowered my voice. I saw the way he grabbed you. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. You don't know what they're capable of, she whispered. You don't know what I've had to. She stopped abruptly, swallowing hard. Footsteps sounded in the hallway outside. Both of us froze. 3 slow, deliberate steps. Then another. Someone stopped outside our door. Not knocking. Not trying to enter. Just standing there. Listening. Olivia's single quotes as face twisted with sheer terror. She leaned closer, her voice barely audible. Daniel, please. Whatever happens next. A shadow moved under the doorframe. Silence pressed against the apartment like a weight. You have to run.